My mom and dad got married 2 weeks before I was born. Now you notice I'm wearing a suit. You don't see Texans in suits very often, but if you do, you're going to hear one of three things. You may now kiss the bride. May he rest in peace. And the most common, will the defendant please rise? Now, most of you are from Texas. I detected that she might not be originally, and Texas is called the Lone Star State. Most people don't know why it's called the Lone Star State. It's because one star is as low as TripAdvisor will go. One other added bonus of me wearing a suit, in case I should die up here, I'm dressed for the occasion. So, a few things you will not hear a Texan say. Pro wrestling's fake. No loaded guns in our house. Checkmate. And Alex, give me Shakespeare for 1,000. Now, you all are a very intelligent group for the most part. I've got one question, and I had to write it out. Okay, is what does Bigfoot find in Elvis alive, a Brahma bull, hog sperm, penal enlargement cream, Houdini, Warren Buffett, O.J. Simpson, scratch cards at the lottery, Fig Newtons, and a broken hip along with a fish have in common? Well, I don't expect y'all to know that, but for me, it all involves what I've done for the last 30 years. I have probably the strangest job of anybody you've ever met. I work for a company called SCA Promotions. I say I work for them. I'm on the downhill slide. 28th of this month, I'm retired. But we provide contingency cash prizes for probability-based events. In other words, we ain't nothing but a bunch of bookies. Now, we will take a bet on anything. If you can imagine it, we've taken a bet on it. The way it got started was a fish. About 40 years ago, a guy sold a fishing contest for tag fish. And he wanted to offer a cash prize of $5,000. Couldn't find anybody that would cover it. He couldn't find anybody that stupid. Well, he got a hold of my boss, and my boss, kind of a gambler, and he said, "You want a $5,000 prize?" And the guy said, "Yeah," and he thought about it, and he said, "Let's see, 5,000. So he charged him $750. Nobody caught the fish. So on Monday morning, he said, "I wrote 2 pieces of paper. I got $750 cash." And that's how the business started. So, 31 years ago, I got a phone call. I was up in Oklahoma, and he wanted to offer me a job. Now, you might say, well, why did I get offered a job? Well, partially because I have a checkered past, and I never played chess or checkers. So I was a policeman, I was a magician, I had been in insurance, and when I was 17, I went to a carnival, and there was a game that later on, you can come up and look at this, called Razzle. It's the most diabolical carnival game that was ever invented. You can't win. Now, it's in carnival lingo, there are 3 kinds of games. There's what's called a flat store, an alibi, and a hanky pank. A hanky-pank is a game you can win, but you got to spend so much money. At the end of the day, you paid way more for the prize than it was worth. An alibi is throw the ball in the bucket. You do? Oh, I'm sorry, sir. You were across the line. And no matter what you do, they have a reason why you didn't win. A flat store is a game where they just flat out rob you. There's no gamble to it. I mean, you have zero chance to win. But it looks like you're going to win really big. What they do, they cheat on the front end because you're trying to get to a number of points, 50 or 100, depending on the game. And when you get 100 points, you win all these big prizes. Well, when you were winning all those points to get towards 100, you won them because they miscounted. So once you start getting closer, then they start playing legitimate and counting real slow, and you can't win. So I was in high school, and I went to this carnival, and I lost $32 on this game. Now, that's not a lot of money, but if you're a kid from northeastern Oklahoma, and $32 is all you got to your name, it's a lot of money. So after I lost it, when I got home, I started studying about cons and swindles, and I found out how they had been less than honest with me. You know, of course, I was kind of a con man myself at that point. I used to have a girlfriend. She had a little brother who was 6. Mom and Dad would leave the 3 of us there together. The 6-year-old was kind of a babysitter, you know, make sure that his older sister and I didn't have any fooling around or hanky-panky, you know. So what I would do is I would take a roll of pennies and I would throw them out in the backyard and tell him as soon as he found all 50, I'd give him $1. Then I'd just throw out 48. Yeah, that's kind of mean, but you know, there was a reason. It wasn't, I mean, I was motivated. So my job, so I came down to Dallas, and my job was to be the director of claims and security and to make sure that all the contests were run fair and honest, and bottom line was make sure we didn't get cheated. So the first thing that happened, something I didn't know much about because we don't have a lot of it in Oklahoma, and that was hockey. So they had a game where they had a little template with a little hole, and you'd stand back at the halfway point, and if you hit the puck and went through the hole, you won $10,000. So the night before the promotion, they called and they said, "We know you got 10,000 in that hole in the center, but we want to put a hole on the left and a hole on the right, and if they hit it through there, they win $100, but we're going to pay that. Is that okay?" And I said, "Yeah." So they did the promotion, and the puck went through the hole over here on the right. Monday morning, I wrote a check for $10,000. Because when it went through the hole on the right, it ricocheted off the back and it bounced out through the hole in the center, and I didn't say which way the puck had to go. So that was a $10,000 lesson, and then later on, we had a deal where you had to hit a golf ball from point A to point B, and it was like 600 yards for $50,000. That's a long way to hit a golf ball. So we did it. So after we did it the next morning, I got a phone call to pay the $50,000. They'd hit it off a 5-story building on the roof of a casino downhill on asphalt with a 40-mile-an-hour tailwind. I forgot that was what happened with Titanic Thompson, but it was on ice, actually. So, for the last 30 years, all I've done is travel around the country to watch contests to make sure we didn't get cheated. Every day I go to work, when a contest comes across my desk, the first thing I have to do is think, how could they cheat us? So that's what I've done. And I had, and I don't know where what did I do here? So one of the things we used to do was we would go to lunch. We would play credit card lotto. Now, this is something that I'm only giving it to you for educational purposes. And I am not responsible for any illegal activity that might occur. So here's the way it works. We go to lunch. After lunch, we bring out a paper sack. And I put in a credit card, and you put in a credit card. We drop it in the sack. The waiter pulls one out. Whichever card gets pulled out, that's who buys. You never win. The cards are not gimmicked. The sack is not gimmicked. So what happens is, I carry 2 credit cards. I carry a flat one, and I carry one with raised numbers. If he puts in a flat one, I put in a raised one. If he puts in a raised one, I put in a flat one. The waiter's in on it. The waiter pulls out the credit card to be sure it's fair and honest and equitable. So when he comes to the table, if the glass stays on the table and it's flat, he pulls out the flat one and it's his card. If I'm drinking, he knows to pull out the raised one. He can never win. Now, if you do this, the smart thing to do is don't win every time. He'll catch on. I mean, if you're going with Jeff, it's probably okay. But anybody else, don't do that. But so here's the deal. If lunch is expensive, he has to pay. If it's cheap, I pay. So at the end of the year, he paid for all of the expensive ones. I paid for all the cheap ones, but it kind of evens itself out. It feels fair. It works really, really well. Now, I get a phone call one day from an escapologist. Guys like Houdini. He had sold $1 million 100-foot rope escape to a reality TV show. The way it worked, you come on the show, you tie me up. If I don't get out, you win $1 million. If I do get out, you don't win anything, but you got some conflict and a chance to win $1 million. So he said, will you insure it? And I said, I've never been tied up with a 100-foot piece of rope with my clothes on. I'm going to have to research this. So,
with your clothes on.
So, I thought that might have gone over your head. This is a pretty sharp group. So what I did is I made a few phone calls, and I went to Walmart, and I bought a 100-foot piece of rope. And it kind of got tangled up, and I was pulling up to the counter, and the manager stopped me, and he said, "Sir, why are you pulling that rope through my store?" I said, "Did you ever try to push one?" So I called the guy up the next day, and I said, I did the research, and I did some checking. And he said, "Your money's the safest it's ever been. I can always get out." I said, "That's why I can't insure you. Or we can't cover this bet." And he said, "Why not?" I said, "Because if you could always get out, you can always stay in." I said, "How do I know that you don't let the guy tie you up? You're in cahoots with him. And after it's over with, when you don't get loose, you split it. He gets $500,000, you get $500,000. He said, "I never thought of that." I said, "That's why you escape from ropes for a living? And that's why I sit in Dallas and think about stupid stuff." So, somebody mentioned Matt King. So, we got a phone call one day from Mac. He wanted to take a Cadillac. And he wanted to fill it full of fig Newtons. And then what you would do is you would guess how many fig Newtons was in the car. And if you guessed exactly, you won the car. So, I don't like fig Newtons, don't tell Mac. And I don't have a Cadillac. But what I do have is I have a sack full of quarters. What I want you to do is just reach in, get a handful of quarters.
Okay.
Let's go ahead, reach in, and not
Okay.
now put some in both hands
Okay.
and drop some back. Just some back. Okay, you got to put them all together, okay? Now I'm going to reach in. I'm going to reach in and get. You got some?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to make 3 statements,
Okay.
and hopefully they're all correct.
Okay.
Okay. I have the same number of quarters as you, plus 3,
Okay.
and enough left over to equal $4.75.
Okay.
That's what I think. That's what I think. Now I may be wrong, but I think. Now remember 3 things:
Okay.
same number of quarters as you, plus 3, and enough to equal $4.75.
Okay.
So count yours out one at a time down on the table.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16.
You have 16.
16, yes, sir.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
Same as me.
Same as you, plus 3.
Plus 3.
1, 2, 3. And enough left over,
To make 475.
and that's what you have, and that's what I have. Perfect match. So, the problem is, when you do this,
It's in the slot, Michael.
when
It's
you
in-
do it, people can cheat. You can take that Cadillac, go out and buy a bunch of fig Newtons and know exactly how many are in the car. So in order to prevent that, I would use a representative number. There's somewhere between 20,000 and 30,000 fig Newtons in the car. I'm going to use a representative number between 20,000 and 30,000. That is 21,412. If you guess that, that's what it is. So it's not the exact actual number. Because if you do it any other way, it's a problem. Would you mind to help me? Yeah, if you don't mind. You look like the most honest guy in the room. Hey, don't flatter yourself. Look what I'm working with.
I know. Feel the same way.
So this is a gambling game, but it's a gambling game where you have a chance to win some money. So it's a gentleman's game. So we're going to shuffle the cards, and we're going to cut. I'm going to look at a card. You're going to look at a card. High card wins. It's that simple, okay? Go ahead and cut. Don't you have to show me. Just cut.
Okay.
What'd you get?
5.
I got a king. You lose. Wait, no. You don't have to quit on the first time. So here, I'll cut. Okay, go ahead, cut. I got a king. What'd you get?
2.
Oh man. Okay, let me go again. Okay, I got a king. Go ahead. What did you get?
3.
Oh, see, it's a lot harder now. I tell you what, you're having trouble. So I tell you what we're gonna do, Bill, because I like you. You don't even have to cut. You can just imagine what you cut to. You can just imagine, imaginary. I got mine. I got a king. Go ahead, just imagine. Go ahead. You don't even have to look. Just go ahead. You don't have to look. Just what you imagine you cut to.
Okay. Is ace high or low?
High. What'd you
I'll
do?
go with an ace.
Remember what I said this was, right?
Uh-huh.
It's a gentleman's game. Look, if you're gonna lie about what you're cutting to, we are not gonna play. So, one of the things we do a lot of are scratch cards. Now, scratch cards, for those of you who don't know, the lottery scratch cards, it's a tax for people who are really bad at math. So this is gonna sound like a sophomoric joke that's not exactly clean, but it's not. So there was this traveling salesman. See, I already sound. Traveling salesman, he had a girlfriend in Dallas. And he took her a scratch card where he'd won $25,000. And he said, hold on to this, and I'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll cash it in. We'll go to Vegas and have a good time. She said, okay. Then he went to a girlfriend in Houston. He said, hey, baby, I won this scratch card. I got $25,000. Hold on to it. I'll be back in a couple of weeks. We'll cash it in and go to Vegas. She holds on to it. The girlfriend from Dallas did not wait 24 hours and drove to Austin to cash in a $25,000 card. So when she gets there, they asked her, they said, has this card ever been out of your care, custody, and control? No. Have you altered it in any way? No. Do you understand that if you sign this affidavit, if it's been altered in any way, shape, form, or fashion, you're going to go to jail? Okay, I want to sign. If you sign it and you've messed with it, I'm going to put handcuffs on you. She said, no, I'm ready to sign. Okay. She signs and he says, okay, you're under arrest. And she's, whoa, wait, let me tell you, my boyfriend, and so they call the boyfriend. Boyfriend said, yeah, that's right. I told her not to cash it. Yeah, I know it's counterfeit. The real card is in my billfold. I did not know which one of the two women I could trust, so I thought I would test them. She went to jail for 2 years, and he and the other one got married. So it's kind of a way you could, you don't think about gambling as being a way that one could test a person's fidelity, but it was possible. So we did a promotion. Imagine seeing a magic trick. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but you see it 233 times. And after the 233rd time, you cannot figure out how the guy did it. So we did a scratch card in Hong Kong. It's called 6 of 30. So you have 30 squares and you scratch 6, and if you scratch the 6 winning squares, you win a prize. Now in this case, the prize was not big. It was only like $300. It was a very small prize, but in that market, that's what it was. So I had a guy, the odds of doing it once were 600,000 to 1. Guy scratched 233 cards and won on every one of them. I was immediately suspicious. So we sent the cards back, and we sent them to a lab and couldn't find where they'd been altered, tampered, or changed in any way. Sent them to a second lab, they found nothing. Took them to the lab at the printer where they were printed in Alpharetta, Georgia. They couldn't figure it out. So basically what we had was we had a guy that had figured out a way to open the vault, take out all of our money, and not leave a trace. Leave nothing. Now, if you take 233 wins at $300, it's not a lot of money. You know, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar operation. They did not care about the fact that he won 233 times at $300 a piece, but they cared greatly that he had figured out a way to beat the system. So what they did, here's a checkbook, here's a one-way ticket, go to Hong Kong, find a guy, figure out, get him to tell you how he did it, and don't come back until you do. So that's what happened. So the guy was a science teacher in middle school, and he took a pen and he poked holes in the scratch card, and he took a microscope like you remember you used to have when you're and he looked through, and if he saw ink, he knew to scratch. If he didn't see ink, he knew not to. And he scratched the right ones, and on the wrong ones where he punched that pin through, it was like silly putty. It's latex is what's on the outside. He took his thumb and he pushed down on the latex, and like silly putty, it closed back up. And there was no trace. And so what we told the guy was, look, we're not going to pay you for the 233 cards. You're not getting any money. You have no chance to win in court. However, I will hire you for a day as a consultant if you simply tell me how you did the silly trick. Tell me how you did it and I'll pay you. So that's what we did. Now, my job, I made a good living my whole life, most of my adult life, with math. I'm going to fool you with math, most of you, with 1 card, 2 cards, and 3 cards. Now, I'm going to start with 3 cards, 2 black ones and a red one. Now, the red one is worth $1 million, theoretically. It's not, because I don't have that kind of money. But I'm going to ask you, do you want this one, the second one, or the third one? Which one do you want? You want this one? Okay. Now, I'm going to show you this one. This is a loser.
Right.
You know. So the question is, should you keep the one you picked, or should you switch for this one?
Well, and let's make a deal. You're supposed to switch, but I'm going to stick with one I have.
But the idea, and you would be right on this case, that you were right. But in actual practice, you should always switch. If you don't switch, you have a 33% chance of winning. If you do switch, it's 66.
Yeah.
Because when I mix these up and you take one, I'm 2-1 to have the winner. This is 66% of the time the winner is here. The moment I show you a card, it's right to always switch. Now, if you took 2, let's assume that these are 2 billfolds, okay?
Okay.
And there's money in both of them.
Okay.
Okay, and you take a billfold,
Okay.
and whatever money's in there, I tell you, you're going to win it.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to tell you that there's twice as much money in one billfold as the other. So if this billfold had 10, this would have 20. If this one had 40, this one would have 80. So one has twice as much. So once you have this billfold, should you keep it or should you switch for the other one? The answer is you should always switch. And the reason you should always switch is because it's 2-1. You're getting 2-1 on your money for a 50-50 proposition. So it's always right to switch. Now, to make this one even, this one you're not gonna believe me. So imagine this card was bigger than it is. But if I tore it in half, how many pieces?
2.
Very good. Very good. Now, if I took those same two pieces and I tore it in half again, now how many?
4.
He's really good.
You have a pop counter, right? 8.
Right. Now,
Okay.
you know how many cards are in a deck?
52.
Right. Very good. Now, if for a moment, I'm not going to do it here because of time restraints, but if I took this paper and I did the same thing like I did, and I did it 52 times, okay? And each time I tore it in half, I stacked them up. How many feet tall would the cards be, roughly, if you were just going to guess?
I wouldn't, they're playing cards, I wouldn't think they'd be very tall. I'd say, I don't know, maybe a foot?
A foot? What would you say?
52 times. I'd say it's probably gonna be about 10 feet.
Okay? So, here's the part you're not going to believe. If you did that, if I tore this card in half and I did it 52 times, this is a great bar bet. If you ever want to win a drink, this is a good one to do it on, especially if you don't like them. Jeff, could I make a bet with you? So the answer is over 500 million miles tall. Over 500 million miles. And you're going to go, there is no way.
252 power.
So if anybody, you maybe some of you have or haven't heard, if you took a penny a day and doubled it for 31 days, how you'd have over 5 million. So think about that.
Okay.
But that's 31 days. This is doing it another 21 times. It's over 500 million miles. It's one of the most bizarre, you would not think. So, with my job, would you mind coming up and helping? Yeah, come on up. So think about this. My job forever has been to watch the money. At the end of the day, that's what my job is to watch the money. So, what I want you to do, just at some point, the card doesn't really matter, just say stop. Stop. Right there. Now, if there'd been one before, it'd been the 5 of diamonds. If there'd been one after, it'd been the jack of hearts. Now, I can see what it is. It's the 3 of spades, okay? Doesn't matter.
Sure.
So what I want you to do is I want you to mark up the back of the 3 of spades.
Okay.
So that, a lot, so you'll know it when you see it again, because I'm gonna implore you to not take your eyes off of it.
Okay.
Okay? Now, I have a question.
Yeah.
Will you remember it if you see it again?
Yes.
Okay. Where is it?
On top of the deck.
Would you bet on it?
Well, now it's not.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
You would have won. Okay. Now, I'm going to go through it. When you think you see it, you touch it.
Okay.
Would you bet on it?
Yeah.
It's very good. Very good. Okay, now, here's where it's going to get harder.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
What do you think of that now?
I don't know. Gonna maybe a little over halfway down.
Let me do it again.
Oh.
I don't know. You may not have a job in this line of work. Okay. Okay. Now. Okay. Now I want you to see. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Where do you think?
On the bottom.
You're very good. You're very good at this. Okay, I'm gonna get the money out. Now watch. Are you ready?
Yep.
You think it's in the face up or the face down?
In the face down.
You don't think it's in the face up?
Mm-mm.
How about now?
Still in the face down.
You're doing good.
Face up.
You think it's in the face up?
Yeah.
Hey, you're doing good. How about now?
We're gonna go with the face downs. Oh,
You think it's in the face down?
yeah.
So far, so good.
Oh,
What do you think?
well, it's not there.
Not where?
Not on the table.
Oh, yeah, I told you you're supposed to pay attention. You notice my hand over here in my pocket.
I do.
See, I keep one card.
Yep.
You gotta pay attention. So, literally for 30 plus years, that's what I've done is fly around the world and make sure that people don't do stuff like that. So, when you travel on the road, some very strange things can happen. And unfortunately, sometimes the people that you come in contact with, they don't believe you when you tell them the truth. Now, I'm not going to tell you I wouldn't lie to you, but I would only do it if it was necessary. So, we did a promotion in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. It's right across the border from Detroit. So I flew from Dallas to Detroit. I rented a car and I'm going to Canada to watch One Hand of Blackjack for $1 million. One hand, $1 million, and I'm on the plane. I'm coming home. So I get to customs, and they said, "Reason for your visit?" And I said, "I'm here to watch One Hand of Blackjack at the casino." And they said, "One Hand of Black?" I said, "Yeah, but it's for $1 million. I'm kind of interested." Being as it was my money, I was interested. So the guy took out a yellow Post-it note, and on the dash he wrote the initials TNT on this Post-it note. And he said, "Pull over to secondary screening." And I do. And 3 hours later, I was back on my way. They asked me why I had an excessive amount of cash when I had less. I had like $900, but that's what happened. So the next week I come and that same thing happened. The same thing happened. They took me to secondary screening and they go through everything. And they just don't believe that some guy that talks slow from Dallas will be coming up to insure $1 million hand of blackjack. So the third week I go back, and before I went, I bought a bottle of champagne and I got a dozen roses. I pulled up to the security checkpoint and the guy said, "How can I help you?" And I said, "Reason for your visit?" And I said, "Met a woman on the internet, her husband's out of town and we're having a party." He said, "Have a nice day, let me right on through, no problem." Now, when I travel, lots of times I would carry one of these.
Who doesn't?
Now, it's a great conversation starter. When they ask me why, I say I have a phobia about any colored seed other than lime green, and I carry my own toilet. It's really amazing. They tend to leave you alone. However, I was in Memphis, and this is my close-up case. And I never do check-in. I mean, you know, I'll check all my baggage, but my magic, it ain't leaving me. And I would, if you ever do travel, it's a real good idea to carry your magic on with you. So it goes through the x-ray and they stop it in the thing, and I hear over the loudspeaker, code red, security checkpoint 1, code red, security checkpoint 1. Now, I don't know what code red means, but I did not like how it sounded. So I'm standing there, and these two great big policemen come up on either side of me, and when they came up, they both had their guns unstrapped, and they're standing there, and another policeman comes up, said, we need to look in your bag. I said, okay, now before you open it, I said, you need to know there's a rubber eye and a severed hand when you open it. So please don't be alarmed. They're rubber, but don't. So he opened. He didn't find any humor whatsoever. So he opens the bag and he looks through it and he runs it back through, and woman shakes her head and runs it back, and I go to open it. He said, don't touch the bag. And I said, no problem. I'm very nervous. I mean, because these guys, they ain't playing. There's no humor at all. So the guy reached down in my bag and he gets this grin on his face and he goes, and he looks at the woman who's running the thing, and I has an 8-ball and one of Goslin's purses. He said, there you go, sir, have a nice day. I said, too late. I done met you. I ain't having a nice day. So I carried the 8-ball because there's a trick called John Bannon's 8-ball, where you force the 8 of clubs or an 8 of spades, and then you produce this out of the thing, and y'all know what this is for. So when he does it, and it comes out, I said, whoa, time out. I said, before I leave, I need to know what just happened. He said, oh, when they were in the bag, they were lined up. So the coin purse was right above the 8-ball, and we thought it was a modern day hand grenade.
Wow.
Until tonight, I had taken this out of my case because I threw it away. I was like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So I do a lot with blackjack for like $1 million. I do it all the time. So I was in LAX, and I would ask y'all what you would have done in this situation. So I'm flying from LAX to Las Vegas. And I'm in the Admirals Club, and I'm talking to 2 women, doing a little magic for them, and because it's good to do magic for the women in the Admirals Club. In fact, my nickname's Cupcake in the Admirals Club, because I buy them Sprinkles cupcakes at $4 a piece. So they said, there's a flight leaving, there's one flight in first class. And I said, okay. So I go down, and a woman's behind the counter, and I said, I understand you got one seat in first. She said, we're full. I said, I know you're full in the back, but you got one seat in the first. And she said, no, we're full. And so she said, step out of line. So I did, and I picked up my cell phone. And I called a friend of mine who works at the Admirals Club. And she looked at it, and she said, Norman, you're not believing this, but the woman is stealing your seat as we speak. And I said, what do you mean? She said, she's giving it to a non-rev, which is like an employee of American that they get to fly and they don't pay. So she gave away my seat. So I was basically a victim of a crime at LAX airport. Nobody in this room would have thought to do what I did. I went to C's Chocolate, and I bought 2 boxes of chocolate. And I went back to the Admirals Club, and I walked in, and they said, Norman, what are you doing here? I said, here, these are for you. And I gave the 2 women I had just been doing magic for both 2 big boxes of chocolate. And I said, told him what happened. I said, the gate agent stole my seat. And they bring up on the computer and they look, and sure enough, that's what had happened. The gate agent had stolen my seat. And I said, what do we need to do? And they said, you need to talk to our boss, the manager of the Admirals Club at LAX. I said, okay. And so they called him and he said, he'll be here in about 10 minutes. And so I found out where he had worked before. And I called somebody at that Admirals Club that I knew that was a friend of mine. I said, tell me about this Augie Thorne. Tell me about him. He's no BS. He's totally straight up. He's a good guy. So Augie shows up. How could I help you? I said, well, I could tell you and be politically correct and be very polite and very nice. Or I could tell you like an irritated Texan would tell you. How do you want to hear it? He said, why don't you tell me like an irritated Texan? I said, okay. I am not going to say what I said, but it wasn't very nice. I said, your gate agent just blankety blank blanked me out of my seat, and I'm not very happy. And he kind of flinched because I used very colorful language, shall we say. And when I said it, he looked at the two women and they went, he's right, that's what happened. So he comes around behind the counter and he looks, and he says, okay, here's what we're going to do. He said, I'm going to put you on the next flight to Las Vegas. I'm going to put you in first class. I'm going to refund your full price of your ticket. I'm going to give you a $200 travel voucher, and I'm going to buy you lunch. I said, that's not enough. And he said, what else could I do? I said, I need your email address so I can send a letter of commendation on these two nice ladies here at the Admirals Club that were nice enough to help me, took care of me, and were professional and represent American Airlines in the way you want to be represented. He said, okay. He writes it down, and he hands it to me. He said, now are you happy? And I said, nope. He's like, what else could you possibly want? I said, I want your boss's email because I want to tell him how professional and how courtesy and how polite you were to me because he needs to know. He said, it's not necessary. I said, maybe not, but I'm not leaving until I get it. He said, okay. And so he did it. Now, here's the interesting thing. I didn't care about first class. I didn't care about the refund on my ticket. I didn't care about the travel voucher. And I dadgum sure didn't care about lunch at the LAX airport. But what I did care about, and what really matters, was I now had the email of the manager at the Admirals Club at LAX airport if I ever had another problem. And I had two women in the Admirals Club who I am their friend for life. Not because of the chocolate, but because that I acknowledged them and I did send a really nice letter on them, and that goes miles and miles and miles. But the most important thing, I had the vice president of American Airlines over every Admirals Club in the United States personal email address. I will tell you now, that was worth, I wish somebody would steal a ticket from me every day and every, you know, it was unbelievably, it was an opportunity to use magic in a way that most people wouldn't have thought about. You know, that See's chocolate, I mean, it was a really, you know, really was a good idea. So, you know, I got stories I could tell you. We could talk all night. I have one last story I'm going to tell you about. I've done this, like I say, I've done it for 31 years. I never cheated anybody. I never robbed anybody. I never scammed anybody, except once. I do have one contest where I did I didn't step over the line, and I'll be honest with you. If I was gonna do it again tomorrow, I'd do it tomorrow, I'll do it the next day, I'll do it the day after. I would cheat every single time. About 5 years ago, on a Friday, I got a phone call. And it was from, I'm originally from Oklahoma. And the phone call was from the next door neighbor where my mom and dad lived. And my mom had fallen and was at the hospital. She broke her hip. She was 90 years old. Had to have surgery. Now, I'm a math guy. Math is how I make my living. If you're 90 and you break your hip, your life expectancy is about 6 months at the very best. 6 months if you're lucky. Most of the time less than that. So I went home, and the first thing you have to do when you gamble, first thing you need to know is what are the rules. So I went to my mom and I said, Mom, here's the deal. You broke your hip. They're gonna operate on you. You got two choices. You can either go to rehab and do the work and walk out of there, or not do the work and you'll die. Now, I can either plan a funeral in 6 months, or I can plan a cruise for you and I to go on in 6 months. I'll plan either one, but there's one I'd much rather do than the other. So she said, okay, and she understood my mom's pretty much a fighter. So they took her to a rehab center. So the first thing I did was I took a 30-day leave of absence from SCA. And I went to the rehab center every day while she was doing rehab. But before I did that, there was a book came out called Read the Dealer. It's a book on blackjack by a guy named Steve Forty. It's very obscure. It changed the way blackjack is played. But one of the things in that book, if you wanted to win at blackjack, you have to get the dealer emotionally involved. If you're the dealer and I can get you to like me or hate me, I can manipulate you. Works in every aspect of life. So I went out of my way to manipulate everybody at that rehab facility. And the way I did it was, the first thing I did is I made friends and nice with the director. And every time I went to the director's office to talk to him to see how his wife and his kids were doing and what was happening and how's life, how is everything. I didn't do it because I was really interested in the guy, but what I was interested in is every employee seeing me go into his office and chit-chat. Like, wait, they must be friends. Maybe I ought to be a little nicer here than normal. You know, it's like if you go to a restaurant and you want to have really good service, ask for the owner, and the owner's not there, and say, well, I haven't seen him in a while. Would you give him my card? Tell him I was in, even if you don't know him. Now the waiter thinks, oh wait, wow, he knows the owner. I better take good care of him. So I did that. I learned every employee's name in the entire place. I learned the physical therapist's name, their husband's name, and their kid's name. And I learned what their hobby was. One of them's hobby was to collect coupons. So I went to the store where she liked to collect coupons and bought stuff I didn't need for people I didn't want and gave her the coupons. I bought candy and cookies and cakes for everybody at the facility, and I would say, what time tomorrow is my mom, are you going to be doing it? And I would be there as a cheerleading section for my mother every single day, never missed. At about 20 days, Medicare kicked my mom out. They kicked her out of the rehab. Not because she was doing bad, because she was doing too good. And I told my dad, I said, she's not ready, we're gonna hedge our bet. I'm gonna pay the money for whatever it costs, the $250, $300 a day for the added 10 days because we need that. So I did that. And 30 days to the day, at 90, my mom walked out. She lived 2 more years. 2 more years. And if you want to talk about a bet where I would cheat, that's the one. And I would do it again. So when we got to the car, I have to tell you the one thing that happened. It's my favorite word. So we get to the car, and I open the door. She sits down, just her and I. I said, so Mom, how's it feel? She looked at me, said one word, glorious! Thank y'all very much.